What's going on, guys? My name is Zerg, and today I'm going to be bringing you a pretty well-known issue that a lot of people have, especially in ZVP, and today that is going to be countering Archon Immortal Chargelot as a Zerg player. I'll also be, pretty much showing it from a Protoss perspective as well through this process. So right now I'm in the Legacy of the Void unit tester. It's in the arcade. If you type it in StarCraft, you'll find it. Pretty easy. So what I'll be doing to show you guys is basically using equal unit costs, unit value, and so we'll be starting with the common Red Ravager, which a lot of people use, especially at lower ranks. So if we throw in like 7 Ravagers, like rest roaches on one side, and we'll give Zerg +2 or +1/+1. This is around the time people usually end up kind of attacking everything into the Protoss player, or vice versa. We'll give the Protoss +1 ground weapons, and that's it. Usually that's all they'll have at that time. We'll give them about 4 Archons, about 5 Immortals, and 15 Chargelots. We'll actually pump it up a little bit. So if you look at the unit cost, their Protoss is a lot higher, and that's usually how it's going to be. We'll cut it down a bit. This is pretty standard. Zerg can remax, so Protoss kind of has this big army, and that's all they have. So if you run these two armies against each other, and I'll be mainly microing the Zerg, and this is without Chargelot, by the way. Just keep in mind. So the problem with this is that, okay, so even without Chargelots, the Protoss army wins by quite a lot. And it's because of these Immortals, and the Archons do so much splash damage. Archons are so good. Protoss players use this unit. They are so good against Roach Ravager. We will throw in the charge, and we'll just play it real quick to show with that. Now, even if you use the biles on the Archons and stuff to break them, and you like focus fire Archons and like focus fire Zealots, and try to micro your heart out, you're not going to win. Let's just throw that out there. You are just not going to win. So, one possible counter, Immortals do damage, extra damage against Armored. So, the next tier is either Broodlords or Ultralisks, and even Lurkers. Lurkers are a little harder to do just because they'll have an Observer usually, and they'll usually be able to see it. It can get damage done. One potential option is to go Ultras. So say you go 5 Ultra, you get Chitinous, you get, around then you'll probably have like +1, standard upgrades, just a few things here and there. And then Protoss will usually have like maybe 2-1, maybe like 2-1. We'll give them 2-1. And then, yeah, so even if you have this, and then let's throw in some other, usually with this kind of comp, I'll go Hydra, and then maybe some Banelings, stuff like that. So again, unit cost is about the same. So if you start this, let's put the Ultras in front, Hydras in back, Banelings in the middle or so. So now even if you do this, and you micro, now you get a much better result. However, these Immortals just do so much damage that you can micro the Immortals a little bit, micro, shoot. So, you might win the battle. Might is the key word, and that's only if they have 5 Immortals. So even if you win the battle, you're still coming back with a lot less. So, Protoss has the upper hand if you're going anything armor related. Now, one good option, and keep in mind this is all it's very set, and there's no fluidity, there's no like position advantage. So with that in mind, if you go Broodlord, say you get about 7-8 Broodlords, that's a pretty good count, and then you go Hydra Bane. Now it does cost a lot. However, Zerg usually is able to get there pretty relatively decently. Give another Archon, some more Chargelots, just to kind of make it a little more even. Again, Zerg's very much more gas intensive in this situation. Now if you start this, and you start the fight, and you start microing the Hydras so that the Banelings take all the damage, and then you're able to micro the Broodlords back, these constant broodlings will keep these Immortals busy, they'll keep the Archons busy, and they'll make the Zealots kind of it'll screw up their AI. So now this is the one of the best counters going for this Broodlord strategy. Now, say the Protoss player goes air. What you would want to do, just throw in some more Corruptors. Corruptors are really good against their Phoenixes, stuff like that. If they go like a lot of Phoenixes, you know, Corruptor Infestor Broodlord is probably the strongest unit comp against Protoss late game. Infestors to Fungal and throw out the Marines. Corruptors to protect the Broodlords, and you're pretty much set there. And that is why Broodlord Corrupt, and now that is one of the harder compositions to learn. That's why it's good to learn it early on, when you're still learning, just kind of learning all the units. Now another option is Vipers. Vipers not necessarily going to do you as much. It's good to pull the Archons in. Let's say we throw in a couple of Vipers here. You know, just as an example, you know, if you abduct the Archons into your army, you know, that kind of thing, it'll just make it a lot easier. You can abduct the Immortals, so, you know, just little things like that. But regardless, this is probably the best counter, I could say, against ground toss. Against air toss, you are going to have to add the Infestors in, maybe like 14 Infestors, a lot of Broodlords, a lot of Corruptors, a couple Vipers in there probably, and you're pretty much set. Not a whole lot of ground. Another possible option is Swarm Hosts, but I will not be showing that one because it is kind of a plain. Swarm Hosts aren't necessarily to fight against their army, it's more to kind of pick them off, draw them back, keep Protoss on their side. And then again, for Protoss players, just remembering, you know, getting those upgrades going, keeping those Zerg player pushed onto their side, keeping map control as Protoss is very important to winning. If you're able to keep picking off bases, maybe recall, keeping the Zerg pressured. Now, I'm going to show you in this next part of the video a game where I actually managed to win against a Protoss player using the Ultra strategy, and there was a certain part in there where it became a viable choice to do Ultras. So let's hop right in that right now. Alright, so here's the game. I'm going to speed it up a little bit to get to the good part, but basically in this game it was pretty standard. Both players doing a normal kind of opening builds. Now, Cybercore is going to go down there. Now the thing I really want to show is later in the game when both players are starting to really get their tech going, and there are certain times where the Zerg needs to start teching up into the next tier so that they can keep up with the Protoss, or keep ahead of the Protoss, that is, in order to prevent too much damage from getting done. Now, preventing early harass, like these oracles, preventing them from getting much damage done is very important for the Zerg player to get this where they need to be. Taking bases early, getting a little harass in, getting scouting, very important. Once you know what they're going, then you know what you need to do. Another option also is Storm for Protoss. Now the Archon drop comes in. Unfortunately for the Protoss player, the Archons didn't actually target down what they should have been, and one of them ended up going down. That's going to be very unfortunate, but again, Zerg players preventing harass, very important. Not making units until you really need to, and just focusing on those drones, very important, very key to getting a economy. The fourth base going down, and again, this is all just the setup. For the Protoss player, you want to get the harass done. You want to get you want to get your gas units going, because they are very expensive. That is one of the hardest things about Protoss, how expensive it is. But once you get that Archon count and the Immortals going, now not a lot of Immortals being made, to be honest. Storm should be on its way or done. Now this first push, similar to the example I showed, is going to consist of 4 Archons, 3 Immortals, so a few less Immortals, but pretty much the same amount of Zealots. And right now what I'm going to be going for is a Hydra Ravager, Hydra Roach Ravager composition. The Roach is to tank the damage, the Hydra is to get some damage from further away. I'm not doing Ling Bane because I do know that I am able to afford, I have the economy to go Roaches, and I would rather go Roach against all these Zealots and stuff like that. Should have added a few Banes in there, but it's there they are. Yeah, so now the Protest player, it's a lot of sentries, so it's going to be more of a interesting. So the shields are doing a decent amount, but the zealots are still getting shredded. So right now you can see the sentries are just taking all the damage. The Archons aren't in front. His positioning is not the best, but these zealots are finally getting in. The problem here is that he's not actually getting the damage done that he needs. The Archons aren't tanking the damage for the Immortals and the Sentries. They're kind of just doing their own thing, so these Immortals will die. Right here, when these Immortals die, is when I know I can go into Ultra, which means I can, well, originally I was going to go Ghost Spire to go Broodlord. However, killing all of those Immortals puts me at such a huge advantage, because now he has to remake his Immortals, and right now he's only got one robotics facility, wow, words, to make them out of. So he's trying to pump them out of one thing. I've got so many roaches already, so he's not going to really get very far. Right now I'm just trying to get some poke damage, pick off some Archons, pick off some Zealots, get as much damage done as I can here, because I know I'm tacking up. You can see the Hive is halfway done. The Spire is done. I was going into Broodlord, like I was saying. Still, it's not a bad idea to do. Still a great idea. However, knowing that I have that huge advantage, I can tech up, getting a 5th base. I know that they're still on 3 bases. Stasis wards over there, interesting. I didn't even know about that actually. But again, you can see these Immortals. He's trying to get 2 at a time now because he knows he's behind. Getting this cancel on the 4th, that's another huge thing. Wow, words. And more advice for the Zerg player is when you have the Protoss on 3 base and you know that you're at an advantage, try to prevent the 4th base, because you know I'm going to get my 5th base, keep them off their 4th, so I'll be 2 ahead. Constantly harass while you're teching up. Doing harass while you're teching up is always a key, because it will keep the Protoss player from getting where they need to be. Now, again, several Immortals, but keep in mind, this is 3 Immortals. He had 3 or 4 Immortals before. He would have had 6 or 7 Immortals at this point, but he lost them all because he was not careful with them. So now he's going back into a fight with only 3 Immortals against all of this. So I know I can go Ultras, because I know that with chitinous plating and adrenal glands, these Immortals will probably really not die. It'll take a while, and they'll tank a lot of damage. So, pretty even trade here. All he has left really is Immortals, and I've got several Hydras left. And I know that at this point, yes, he has Immortals, but these Ultralisks can tank quite a bit of damage for the Lings and Hydras. So knowing that that's all he's got, I can just send the Lings in, the Ultras in, and eventually they're just going to shred through. There's only so much micro you can do at this point, and once you get enough Lings, then it's pretty much game, and that's pretty much all you have to do. Now, again, that's granted he doesn't have Storms going, that's granted he doesn't have enough Immortals. Now, it's pretty much always a safe bet to go into Broodlord because of the fact that you never really know what they're making on the side. It could be really anything. So just making sure that you kind of just keep an eye on what army they have. If they have a lot of Zealots, just go Bane, Hydra into Broodlord, and then get some Infestors as well a little bit around the same time. Infestors are huge. If you can learn to use your hotkeys and micro the Infestors, fungal, and then back them up, those are huge. Banelings will hit them so hard and do so much damage. But just keeping all of these things in mind. And then for Protoss, again, just keeping that Immortal count up pretty much forces the Zerg player, to go into air. And that's kind of what you want, because you want the game to go longer. You want to do the harass. Having 6 or 7 Immortals will pretty much prevent any Ultra option, but only having 3 or 4 will not do that so much. The Archons are really good at splash damage. Make sure you have those. Zealots are really good at tanking frontline damage from either Roaches or Hydras. And, I mean, that's pretty much all you really need to do as the Protoss. Just keeping the harass going. Obviously, keeping your production going. Getting that 4th base up is really key. So you can tech in air. Air is pretty much the tech you want to go for both sides late game. But keeping all that in mind, thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like and subscribe for more content like this. If you want to see another specific guide, leave a comment down below saying what kind you want to see. And then I'll have a couple more types for different races coming out soon. So keep posted, and I'll see you guys in the next one.